It took the rebellion almost 2 years to build their base on Hoth. According to the sourcebook called Battles That Changed the Galaxy, the Rebel Alliance built Echo Base over the course of 2 years. We know that Empire Strikes Back takes place in 3 ABY, 3 years after the Battle of Yavin, as seen in A New Hope. So, about a year after the Battle of Yavin, potentially a little longer even, the Rebel Alliance discovered Hoth and deemed it appropriate for the location of their next main base of operations. The Rebels had other bases, of course, but none on the scale as Echo Base. They were all mainly just outposts or space stations, nothing big enough to maintain the entire alliance. The planet Hoth was first surveyed by a Gigoran scout named Purpruff. She was a member of the Rebel Special Forces and had been sent to Hoth to measure the hospitability of the planet. Being a Gigoran, the cold nature of Hoth didn't faze her. So when she recommended the planet to the Rebel higher-ups, she described it as clean and brisk, not realizing how truly cold the planet was for other species, especially humans, because they're of course not covered in fur. However, Alliance High Command thought that, despite the climate, the unhospitable nature of Hoth would make it perfect for a base of operations. From here, the Rebels dispatched several teams to begin work on the new secret base. Several key members of the Alliance assisted in its construction, including Kes Dameron and Shara Bey, as well as Luke Skywalker, Hera Syndulla, and many others. The process took 2 years after all, so I'm sure most members of the Rebel Alliance had a hand in building Echo Base. What I really want to draw attention to, though, is the timeline between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. During this time, the Rebel Alliance had established itself all over the galaxy, but the main fleet, the one that housed the Rebel High Command, had remained mobile, constantly in search of a new place to call home. Yavin had been evacuated shortly after the first Death Star's destruction, so they needed a place that was much more discreet. Several locations served as temporary bases, such as Vrogus Voss, Horax 3, and the Makota space docks. At least I think that's how those are pronounced. But none of them were good enough to serve as a primary base of operations. The main comic run that covers this time period, which began in 2015 and was just simply called Star Wars, follows the Rebels as they both search for a new base and run from the Empire. Initially, this comic run was assumed to cover the entire 3-year gap between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. But because of the information revealed in Battles That Changed the Galaxy, I don't think it covers the full 3 years. Instead, I think that most of that comic run covers the first year after the Battle of Yavin, and then it has a time jump much later on that it jumps to just before Empire Strikes Back. At one point toward the end of the run, the Rebels had only just discovered the planet Hoth, and had not even scouted it out yet. This couldn't happen any sooner than 1 ABY because of how long it took for the Alliance to build Echo Base. The very end of the 2015 comic run does end with the Rebels arriving on Hoth, and the base is seen as being at least partially constructed. This leads me to believe that there is a time gap, specifically between volumes 11 and 12 of this comic. Basically, at the end of the Shu-Torun War story arc, and then the Rebels and Rogues story arc is where the time jump takes place, where it goes from like a year after Battle of Yavin to just before the events of Empire Strikes Back, when the Rebels have already established the base on Hoth, but haven't completed it yet. It isn't explicitly stated anywhere that there is a time jump, but given what we know of Echo Base's construction and when the scouting of the planet first took place, I think we can pinpoint where a time gap feasibly occurred inside this comic run. Anyway, that's what was on my mind for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and if you've read the 2015 Star Wars comic run, let me know what you think of it. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video.